Okay, we're broadcasting live now.
We're waiting on one or two more people to start.
And again, for the benefit of everyone just joining the meeting, we're broadcasting live on YouTube. So the feed is going out to the public now.
Hi, Ann.
Hi.
We got Ann, yay. So we have from the board of trustees, we have Joyce. I see Will. Don't see Will, but he's there.
I'm here.
Deirdre. Oh, you're there. Hi, Will.
Keith is there, Deirdre.
Will. Yeah, there's one other gentleman needed. Joyce. Will we expect anybody else? Or?
Yeah, I think all of them.
Okay.
I want to get the beach background. I haven't been able to figure out how to do that.
In the settings, virtual background, you can add anything. I had Disney movies and things like that.
And to the right of stop video, if you hit that little caret, you can change the background. If you have something on your desktop to change it to.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's the two that are not here.
Okay.
There's any buttons that I'll mess things up.
We're just waiting to see if Barbara and Patty are going to join us. Skip's going to call them.
Kathy's got the beach. I love it.
Yeah.
And
Hi, Joan.
hi there.
Hey, Joan.
Hi. This is a first for me.
I take my hat off to you because I don't think it's easy. I've had difficulty getting used to it. So good for you for being able to figure it out.
Nothing if not determined, right?
That's right.
Hi, Simona.
Simona, you're muted.
There you go, Simone. Oh, there you go back again. Still can't hear you, Simona. Move your cursor across the screen and see if, oh, there you go.
I think I'm okay.
You are okay.
You're good.
Hello, hello.
Hey,
Hello. Hello.
This is different.
yeah.
Hello, Donna.
I'm gonna move over to the table.
Scott, is that your puppy?
That is indeed. That
I
is
saw-
Mickey.
I saw his paw,
Barbara.
That's funny.
and I thought, well, maybe that's his wife, Patty. I
we, don't
saw
want,
the paw.
we don't want that going out on YouTube, man.
He looks cute.
Oh, thank
It just did, Scott.
Simona's there. Oh, Simona's there. Okay, yeah.
How old is he?
Hello.
He will be 2 years old in about a week.
And Barbara's in.
Barbara's in. Okay.
Barbara, are you in?
There's Barbara. There's Barbara. Yep. We're right down there. She's waiting to us in the bottom. In between Simona and Will. There she is.
Yeah.
Hi, Barbara.
Question. Is there any way to move the screen so I can see other people? Or,
Slide it to the left.
okay, got it.
Do you see everybody, Joan?
Yeah.
Okay.
The people,
Simone.
Hi, Joan.
Hi, Simone.
I unmuted
Hi.
myself.
Hi, Barbara.
hello.
Hello.
Hello,
Simona.
hello. I will.
Hi, Deidre.
Okay, if everyone's ready, we're going to go ahead and convene the meeting. Maybe we can begin with introducing yourselves. And let's start with the Board of Trustees members that are here. Let's start with Simona.
Simona Simmons, good to see you all.
Barbara?
Barbara Maxwell.
Will?
Will Shorter.
Joyce?
Joyce Miller?
Keith?
Keith Say.
Deirdre?
Deirdre Hendrick.
And Jen? Jen, did you hear us?
Oh, yes, Joan Beck.
Oh, great, thank you. One way of testing it. And why don't we have staff as well, if you don't mind? I'm sorry, I didn't choose myself. I just assumed everybody knew who I was. So Will Calhoun and.
There you go. And I'm Skip Auld and
Why don't we go staff, just in case there's other people listening and wondering who people are. Staff, if you could introduce yourselves and your titles. Let's start with Rudy.
Hi, Rudy Rodello, Chief of Sports Services.
Coven.
Owen Roundtree, Chief of Human Resources.
Christine.
Christine Feldman, Marketing and Communications.
Kathy.
Kathy Hallerbach, Chief of Public Services and Branch Management.
Anne.
Ann Glenn, Executive Director of the Library Foundation.
Scott.
Scott Sedmak, Chief Financial Officer.
And Donna.
Donna Denny, Executive Assistant.
Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to anyone who's joining us today. First up, we have the approval of the agenda. Hopefully everyone did receive the updated agenda that Skip sent just yesterday afternoon, right? Were there any, did anybody want to add anything to the agenda? No.
I move for adoption.
Well, oh, sorry.
Yep.
I did have a note. I don't know if we need to amend it.
Okay.
Just that I do have a very, very brief, like one-liner report on the Cybersecurity Committee.
Okay, can we fold that into the Budget Committee report? Would that work?
Sure, it's anytime I'm speaking is fine.
Okay, great. And I believe there was a motion to approve the agenda.
Yes,
Yes.
there was
Okay.
there was a motion, yes.
Jen, that was you, correct, for purpose of minutes?
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second it.
Okay.
Wait a second.
who seconded?
Joyce.
I'm sorry. Joyce. Okay.
Second.
Joyce.
Okay, and next up we have, oh yeah, I'm sorry, we need to vote. Moving on too fast. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any of those opposed? All right, agenda is approved. Next up, we have the minutes. We have several minutes. We have the minutes from starting with Friday, the 13th, March 13th, 2020 Executive Committee meeting. And I'm struggling to remember, Will, did you chair one of these meetings? Were you present? Or is that an earlier meeting?
The first set of minutes was the one where I attended in person. I don't believe you were able to attend in person, but you called in.
I did call it, okay.
That was March 13.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions to the March 13th agenda? Hearing none. Could I have a motion to approve the March 13th agenda? I mean, a minute.
I so move.
So when you speak, please say your name so that Donna can record who is making the motion. I believe that was
Joyce
Joyce.
Miller, I so move. I so move.
And is there a
Joan
second?
second.
Yeah,
Joan second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I,
Okay, we'll move on to the next set of minutes.
point of order, Mr. Chair. I put it in the chat, but maybe people can't see it. We don't need seconds in a meeting this small,
Okay,
less than 13 people.
all right, sounds good then. The March 15th, 2020 minutes. Any additions, corrections, deletions to those minutes? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the March 15th, 2020 minutes?
Joyce Miller, I so move that it get approved.
Okay, and I've been informed we don't need a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I,
All those opposed? Minutes for the March 15th meeting are approved. The minutes for the March 19th, 2020 meeting, Will, I believe you were here at this meeting in person, is that
Yeah.
correct? Okay, so,
Yes, that's correct.
okay, so we would need to correct that Will Shorter was in attendance at that meeting and not attending by telephone. Are there any other additions, deletions, corrections to the March 19th minutes? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
So moved.
Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved for the March 19th, 2020 meeting. Next up, we have the treasurer's report. And Deirdre, can we hear from you?
yes, I don't have a treasurer's report. I don't, Scott, do you have something to present?
Yeah, the treasurer's reports were included in the emailed board packets, but it goes without saying that there's very little to report. We did get a few weeks worth of revenue, and that is really the only noteworthy item on the report.
Thank you, Scott. So that's my report.
Did you want to add in the cybersecurity report that you mentioned, a one-liner?
Oh, sure. So for cybersecurity, just simply that the committee has met finally to discuss the responses from Rudy regarding the our questions about the report that they had prepared, the one that was submitted to the board last year. And we are going to be meeting, I think initially with Skip and then with Rudy and Scott Barton regarding some further questions that we have. So it's going to be a little while before we can report back to the board on actual recommendations.
Wonderful, thank you. We'll accept the treasurer's report subject to further audit. Staff reports, and our staff submitting today, or are they talking about anything?
We, no, I think that we want to reserve our comments for the full board meeting later, just to give updates to the full board.
Wonderful. Yeah. The committee reports, the budget committee report.
The budget committee has nothing to report at the moment. I believe that we're waiting for something to be presented by Skip to us, but we haven't met in the past since the last meeting.
Okay. Skip, did you respond to that email from Deirdre about that issue? Did you see that?
Remind me of the issue. Is it the issue of the increases?
The other increases?
Yeah. She and I are in communication about that, and,
okay.
and I'm going to be meeting with the budget committee that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rivera Beach Capital Project committee report. That's me. Nothing much to report. I see the temporary space. I see there's some bookshelves and things in there. Obviously, we can't really do much right now because of the state of emergency. And we're not going to ask staff to do anything unsafe without seeking the advice of the county health officer. One of the good things is there was some concern about going in to remove the collection. We've gotten more time from the county up to June 15th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And originally they gave us till May 15th for asbestos removal and other issues.
And I would like to address that, if I may. So with the Vero Beach, the plan had been to, and this was based on our county public works schedule for getting us out of that building and starting asbestos abatement and then demolition and then site preparation. So the plan was to get us out of there by May 15th, which would have meant that by basically next week or May the 1st, probably by May the 1st, we would have had to go in and get all that material out. Well, we obviously don't want to do that at the peak of the crisis. We won't put anybody in danger as we proceed with this. We had been reviewing with Dr. Kalyana Raman a possibility for this, but he recommended that if we can delay a little bit, if the county doesn't have a hard and fast deadline on that May 15th, we just wait a little bit, get us out a little further into the curve of the pandemic, and so that's what we did. And we've got June 15th now, so we're planning to go back in. Meeting staff would come in around June the 1st, roughly. So that's where things stand right now.
And everything's honestly tentative. It's a long state of emergency and being able to.
I would like to go back because I think this ties into where I would like this. So I do want the executive committee to hear that we are planning to extend the closure of our libraries and have a reopening on June 8th with staff coming in June 1st. This is all subject to reappraisal in mid-May to make sure that timing is good. This was based on a discussion I had this week with Nilesh Kalyan-Raman.
Can you speak directly into the microphone instead of into the air? Because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah.
I am too.
So you need to,
Are you having a hard time hearing Will also?
yes.
Yeah.
Is it set to the mic on your keyboard and not the mic on this thing?
Rudy, help us out here. What do we need to be speaking to?
Since you're using the web camera there in the conference room, you need to be speaking to the camera. So it's quite a ways away. So as long as you speak up to it, it'll pick you up. I can hear Mr.
We need to redo the whole meeting up until now.
I can hear you. I can hear
I'm
you
getting
fine.
closer to this. Will, maybe you're going to need to get over here.
Sometimes the sound improves if the people that aren't talking mute themselves and then unmute yourself when you want to talk. All of us, that might make it more clear.
Let me do that real quick. Let me mute everybody and then we'll resume.
Okay, so it looks like I'm unmuted. Donna, if you can hear me now, raise your hand. Okay, I'm sorry that you couldn't hear me. So what I wanted to say is that we got the okay from County Public Works. The Revere Beach project, as the Annapolis project, are considered essential projects under the governor's order and under the county executive's order. It's very clear that we need to move these projects along, and so Public Works is doing that very assiduously. And so part of that is for us to vacate the Revere Beach Library. Instead of leaving May 15th, we're going to be leaving on June the 15th. We're going to be vacating by June the 15th. This way, as I mentioned, we're going to be extending the closure to June 8th with staff coming in a week before on June the 1st. And this will allow the staff 2 weeks to get vacated. I do want to say also, when we reopen, and I'll say this in the full board meeting, we will be doing it with personal protective equipment, with all the processes that are recommended to be in place. And I also want to be clear that the June 8th is still a target date. We will reassess in mid-May. We are likely to be one of the last places to reopen. We have a little tug of war going on between the necessity to reopen as an essential community service as defined in Maryland state law on the one hand, and then the decision on making sure that staff are protected. So even when we reopen, it may be that we will not be allowing the high-risk categories of people to come in. So if we have staff over 60, we may not allow them to come into work yet. We haven't decided any of that, and we really haven't decided any of those details, and that will all be worked out when we have further discussions with Nilesh Kalyanaraman. He is on a state committee that is working out all the details of reopenings of businesses and everything else, and he will work with us on the proper timing and the way to reopen. So I wanted to give that update. You can be thinking about it. I'll give the same update during the board meeting. So if you have questions, that may be the best time to ask. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, appreciate it. Unfinished business, is there any unfinished business? No, I think it's okay for last time. Moving on to new business. The motion to approve materials contracts above $75,000. Scott, can we unmute Scott and let him speak to that? Scott?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. The motion to approve materials contracts above $75,000. Could you briefly describe that for us?
Sure. These are routine requests from our materials management department. I believe one of the ones you'll see there is a rather substantial increase to one of our e-materials vendors. And per the purchasing policy, purchases over $75,000 require board approval. So we're respectfully requesting same.
And this is obviously not policy, so it doesn't require 30 days or anything like that. Did anyone have any questions about the expenditures? I noticed one was it the Malia, or what was it called? It was like $1 million, wasn't it, or something like that? The one at the very top one, Scott. That was.
Oh, I apologize. I don't have it in front of me. I think the first one, was it Malia? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, like $1 million, or.
And what is Malia?
Yeah, Malia is a consortium of Maryland libraries that buys e-resources. And once they're purchased through Malia, I guess we get a good price. Rudy could probably explain it better than I can, but we get favorable pricing by going through Malia, through our taking advantage of our membership in Malia. But I do believe, and Rudy, correct me if I'm wrong, that it's strictly e-resources.
Yes, you couldn't have said it better. It's characterized it perfectly.
Right, and maybe you can answer this as well, Rudy. I know we're emphasizing spending in the area of e-resources. Are some of these expenditures going towards that?
Almost everything that's new is going toward e-resources. We've severely restricted the amount of physical materials we're purchasing because obviously we can't get to them right now.
Sure. Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the materials contracts above $75,000?
So moved.
Unmute everybody. Rudy, could you unmute everybody?
I moved it. Well.
Okay. Okay. And can I have a second?
I second Joyce Miller.
Don't need it.
Don't need a second. It's still too small. You're right. I'm sorry. I apologize. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Moving on to the next matter, our IRS Form 990 for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 from Scott. Scott, could you explain this as well?
This is our, if you will, our tax return, the library's corporate tax return, even though we are tax exempt. So it's an informational document. It is available to the public once approved by the board. In the normal course of events, we would leave this over for 30 days for the board to be able to review it. Unfortunately, with the shutdown, this got away from me, and our next board meeting is going to be after the due date of May 15th. So I would like to ask either for executive committee approval, if that's possible today, or alternatively, if it could be referred to the budget committee, who might be able to approve it before the next board meeting. Strictly a matter of complying with the IRS deadline, with my apologies.
I would certainly think that the executive committee could do that. So I would certainly be willing to make that motion.
Well, comment. Is this something that the board could approve at 4 o'clock today?
Yeah, has the board?
I don't think that's a business meeting, is it?
Scott, has the board received the full Form 990, the entire board?
I believe it has. Donna, is that correct? They've received everything electronically.
Yeah.
Okay. We can do that, sure. Okay, take just a moment. We're from the executive committee at least. Were there any questions? Yes.
Do we need a motion from the executive committee on this?
I don't know. I think we just take it up the board meeting at the 4 o'clock meeting and just deal with that. It should only take a minute. We'll add it to the agenda. And we'll seek approval for that. Revision to current emergency compensation.
Well, I had a question. I hadn't had a chance to review the agenda for the 4 o'clock meeting. Is it a business meeting? Are we going to vote on things at that meeting?
It was intended as an informational session.
That's what I thought.
However,
so I didn't...
we could revise the agenda to add this business item to the agenda.
I just thought it was a little unusual for us to hold a business meeting of the full board following an executive committee meeting in which we're taking care of almost all of the library's business. That's a kind of a strange thing to do. Because
let me ask this: would it be easier to refer it to the budget committee? Will you meet sometime soon to allow
we are planning to meet. You'd have to include in the referral, would have to give us power to approve it if we're going to do that, because we don't have, or normally don't have power to approve anything.
But the executive committee already has the power. Let's go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to accommodate Keith there. All right. So do we need to vote on this?
Second.
All right.
No second needed.
No second needed. Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those.
Aye.
All right. 990 is approved, Scott.
Thank you very much.
The revision to the current emergency compensation plan. Skip, would you like to?
Yes, let me speak about that. So we sent out a document earlier. I don't really know how many of you had a chance to read this because it came out just maybe an hour ago. So I want to explain it and read certain sections. I want to tell you what we are proposing. Currently, we are providing comp time for any hours that are worked, that are essential hours to work that staff are putting in. So on this past Saturday, we completed our second 2-week pay period. So we now have 4 weeks of information on how much comp time we are providing. And we're going to continue, we're proposing to continue that through the end of this pay period. So what it will mean is that for 6 weeks, people who have done any work will be not only paid their base salary, but they will receive comp time on an hour-for-hour basis. It's clear that this is unsustainable. This became clear last week when we saw how much comp time is being built up. There are any number of employees, including most of the employees on this phone call, who are in this meeting. There are any number of employees who are working 20, 30, 35 hours a week. And by adding comp time, it means that they're going to have to take that time off at some point. The board at one of the previous, or the executive committee at one of the previous meetings, waived the limit on carryover. We allow 75 hours to be carried over at the end of each calendar year. And that's great. But what we're faced with is once we do get back to normal or close to normal business, we're going to have staff who not only have the 4 weeks of vacation, the 6 days of personal leave, the 13 holidays, but they're also going to have potentially 100 or more hours of of comp time to try to work off. So
Won't
obviously,
have any staff.
I'm sorry.
You
What?
won't have any staff.
That's the thought.
That's the point. So with that being unsustainable, the proposal here is to end comp time at the end of this pay period, which is next Saturday. A week from this Saturday will be the end of this current 2-week pay period. So we will have had 6 weeks of buildup of comp. We are also, though, looking to provide a $3 per hour additional pay for employees who are not management employees. So employees who are at grade 17 or below would, for the hours that they work, receive a $3 per hour stipend, let's call it, on top of their base pay. We think that that's that's a valuable thing, especially for the employees who are on the lower ends of the pay scale. And frankly, there's not a lot of employees who are doing a lot of work. I mean, there's some who are doing a lot of work that are under grade 18, and they'll benefit more than others. But that's what we're proposing. I want to just read from the
Rudy, could you mute everybody again, please?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Could Rudy mute everyone so I can hear again, please?
It's causing feedback.
Thank you. Okay. So with that, I want to read sections, not the entire policy, but sections of this that are some of the key sections. Okay, so first of all, this policy would go through the end of this fiscal year, or to the date that all salaried employees must report to work, or July 1st, whichever is earlier. So if we do actually get back to work on June 1st, then this policy would end and the stipend would end. If it takes us until July 1st or later to reopen the libraries, then this policy would continue right up to July 1st. The policy defines essential work and then the key parts on compensation. Salaried employees shall be paid at their base hourly rate of pay for the hours in their established work week, anywhere from 18.75 up to 40 hours per week. Hourly employees, and remember, we talked about our part-time and paid staff, shall be paid at their base hourly rate of pay multiplied by the average number of hours they worked in each pay period over the 12-month period that ended March 14th, 2020. So we would continue paying the part-time staff the way we have, and that has been really important for all of the people who are receiving that pay. In addition to the compensation described in these two sections, salaried employees whose positions are below grade 18 and all hourly employees shall be paid $3 per hour for time worked on essential tasks. So those are the key points of this policy, and you will have received it about an hour ago in your email.
I move adoption of the policy, and I'd like to speak on it.
Sure. Good.
Okay. Yeah, Skip talked to me about this a few days ago, and I urged him to bring it forward today. I actually wish we had gotten ahead of this and come up with this some sort of plan beforehand and had a chance to discuss it with potentially with staff, but because we're just changing the compensation policies for them without any input from them, I think is not really fair. But at the same time, this is unsustainable. We cannot continue with the current comp time methodology. So I think this is a way to make it equitable for those. I mean, you may have some people who are working on virtual programs who are spending a lot of time working, and then other people who may even be at higher grades who are getting regular admin leave for their regular salary without, or the regular wages without any doing any work at all, which is, you know, the way we're doing things, and I believe that's the right thing to do. But those people who are working ought to get something more for doing that work, I think. And so in place of the comp time, I think this is the right thing to do for the lower paid staff who may be having more difficulties in this this very difficult time. So that's why I very strongly support this.
I've got some questions about it. Let's see. On this one provision about the $3, where particularly where we're talking about hourly people, if their compensation is based on an average, they may actually be working more hours now than their average. The $3 should really be in addition to the earned pay. Is that correct?
Yes, and Keith, we were talking about that a little bit this morning on the executive team. I'm pretty certain we have one employee who's in that position, who's coming in working a lot. And so we're not going to hold that person's pay at the average level. So,
right.
So that person will be paid for actual hours worked and will be paid with the $3 additional.
Right, that's what I would think. I don't think the language quite does that. It almost reads, to me, it reads like the $3 per hour is the rate of pay on top of the average compensation, as opposed to the actual earned hours plus $3.
So,
if you follow that.
I do follow you. I don't know, Scott, if you or one of us can come up with some language right now.
I think that's a very good point, and I'm wondering if what we could do, because we're under a time pressure, if we could adopt the motion.
Now you may be able to handle that. Excuse me for talking over you, Deirdre. You may be able to handle that in the regulations that are called for at the end here.
What I was going to suggest is that we adopt it, and then if we're not able to resolve it that way, that we draft up some language to fix it retroactively at the next meeting, and that we just go forward. Because otherwise we could spend half an hour or more here trying to figure out language, and we've got another meeting.
So I can give you a draft statement to add to number 3 here that I think will handle it. And Scott drafted this, so I would like Scott especially to listen with a keen ear, but everybody. So let me read what it says now, and then I'll tell you what I'm proposing. In addition to the compensation described in sections 3.1 and 3.2, salaried employees whose positions are below grade 18 and all hourly employees shall be paid $3 per hour for time worked on essential tasks. This is my revision to this, and I'll write it down for Donna. For hourly employees who work more than the average number of hours worked in each pay period over the 12-month period ended in March 14th. That's just directly pulled from the previous section for who work more. They will be paid the stipend as well as for all actual hours worked.
Well, that sounds sort of muddled, Skip. Maybe Deirdre has a point here. It might get complicated, but that's what I want to be clear on, that these people will be paid for what they actually work, plus $3. And if that's the intent, then I'll leave it, to be clarified later, if that's what makes sense.
Skip?
And I think if Donna makes sure that's clear in the minutes, so that if we going forward, we can address that if we need to, but we'll at least have a record.
Yeah, just make sure that's reflected, that was the intent of the executive committee.
Skip?
Will?
Since Keith, as a lawyer, brought up a point, I was just thinking, did we run this by our counsel the language.
I'm sorry, say that again, Will? Do you run this?
Did we run this by Kevin, our counsel?
No, I haven't run this by Kevin at all.
Okay. This is just my opinion. I don't think this would hurt. Just moving forward, when we adopt different policies, especially like this, and since we're moving in a moving and fluid environment, just if we run it by him just to get any advice on language or anything, I think that may be beneficial to us to make sure that the wording is precise. That's just my suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
So do we need to do the motion to waive 30 days
Yes,
first?
we need a motion, yeah.
So this is a policy, so we do need a motion to waive the 30 days first.
I'll move to waive the 30 days.
Well, before we go there, I've got one more question, please. Up in the scope in number 2, let me ask this question. Do we have any vendors or contractors that are individuals as opposed to entities?
Yes, we have a lot of programmers that are.
Okay, so if that's the case, which I assumed, I suggest we delete 2 words and add another word, and I think it would be clear. It now says vendors, contractors, and any and all other entities receiving payment of any kind from the library are excluded from the policy. I think if it said vendors, contractors, and any and all non-employees receiving payment of any kind are excluded. That would be the minor modification I would suggest.
Fine. That sounds good. We'll add that in.
Thank you for asking that question.
Appreciate it.
Deirdre and made the motion to waive the 30 days, or okay. We don't need a second.
You could do a vote by raising hands, and then we wouldn't have to unmute.
That's good. You don't mind about raising hands? Yeah. All those in favor? All those opposed? Nobody's opposed.
Okay.
Okay. So now we have to approve have a motion to approve the policy. Did I get someone to make a motion to approve the policy?
So moved.
I actually made it before we did the other motion. I made it,
Yeah.
which is the correct order actually to do that.
Is it really? Okay. I was motion.
Right, because otherwise you've suspended the rules
Right.
for like an indefinite number of motions.
Okay.
You have to do it within the motion.
Okay. All right. But just to be on the right side, let's.
So this is a motion by Deirdre because you motioned it before we went to suspend the 30-day rule, correct?
Right.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor raise their hand.
Well, we should have you hold your hand up so we can count. Keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Unanimous.
It's like unanimous.
Yeah. All right. All those opposed? None, obviously. All right. So
Thank you.
all right. What do we have left?
Okay, we have one other item.
One other item, the reclassification of 5 positions, and that's COVID. COVID, could you speak to that?
Yes, well, we're waiting for the FY 2021 budget proposal for filling some of these positions, but it's clear now that no new positions are going to be funded by the county. So we took a look at these vacancies and made a decision what was critical. So out of the 263.5 allotted positions we had 13.5 vacancies that we were looking to fill. So in speaking with Skip, and Skip spoke with Will Calhoun and Kai from the county, they had mentioned that there is going to be a hiring freeze coming. That's what they're, but it was okay for us to go ahead and fill these positions. Now, if this hiring freeze goes through, so we'll definitely comply with that in FY1, but there are some provisions for us to go ahead and fill some other positions should it need occur. But of course, we want to and do our part as a library system. I think Skip's going to take you through some of the little more details of these positions.
Okay, and also just to give you a little more overview on this, This morning, the county executive announced a hiring freeze for all county employees. And so I talked with Kay Baugista Brown. She's the library's liaison with county administration. I had talked with her last week because we knew that a hiring freeze was coming at some point. And she said, yes, go right ahead with the recruiting, as her understanding was that we should be able to fill any position that we're in recruitment for. I talked with her again this morning after Mr. Pittman announced the hiring freeze at the county level, and she has contacted Ben Burge about the propriety of us going forward with this. Even though there's a hiring freeze at the county, there are exceptions to that policy and waivers, and many, if not most of, or all of our positions would fit within that category of the waiver. One of the waivers being if you have something in the works, keep going with it. So in order for us to actually advertise these 5 positions, we have to have the positions reclassified, or at least, actually to advertise 3 of the 5 positions, because the ones that are being reclassed from circulation assistant to library associate, we already have a pool of candidates that we would be drawing from for that. But the positions that we want to reclass, and keep in mind, we've looked at, actually, I think the best thing to do would be to read you the list of the 13 positions that we want to hire for, and then I'll fold in the issue of the reclasses. So we have a number of existing positions we want to hire for. Programming and outreach coordinator, Spanish speaking required. That's a critical position. We need it, and we need to get that filled. We have 2 librarian positions that are existing, one for Annapolis and one for Edgewater. We have a library associate position at Eastport that is existing. We have 2 circulation assistant positions at Annapolis and a half-time circulation position at Odenton. Finally, for the existing positions, we have 2 half-time custodians, one at Discoveries and one at Odenton. So we've already started the recruitment process for those positions. The new positions that we are reclassifying, one is a library associate at Discoveries that's a reclass from a circulation assistant. Another is a library associate at Odenton to have a focus on the creation station there. And that would be creating that position from 2 currently unfunded area part-time positions. So we'll be creating a single position there from positions that we've held vacant for some time now. And then the 3 that are basically completely new positions are the IT help desk supervisor. That is currently a circulation assistant position, and that one was being held for the business intelligence analyst. It is clear that we need, and Rudy made a strong case to me, that we need to get this IT help desk supervisor position before the business intelligence analyst. So that's what we want to do. And obviously that was a position that we had requested in the FY21 budget. We also need a finance specialist too. This is again a circulation assistant position that had been held from Discoveries when we stopped having circ assistants at Discoveries. That's the case with maybe 1 or 2 of the other ones as well. But the finance specialist, obviously, you all know the reasons that's important. We'll go into all of that. And the last one, we have had the receptionist position here that's been vacant. It's called administrative aid. We decided it's going to be more effective to have part-time people. We've actually hired, pending reopening, 3 people to be part-time staff that staff the reception desk here at headquarters. We want to take that administrative aid position and create a director of the annual fund. The foundation has outstripped its ability to really keep up with all the great new donors, and this will allow the focus of each of the 3 positions to be stronger and better. So those are the positions. So we would be requesting 5 reclasses. Administrative aid to director of the annual fund, and then 4 circulation assistants, 1 to IT help desk supervisor, 1 to finance specialist, and 2 to library associate.
Does anybody have any questions for Skip? I believe, Joan, you might have a question. Joan, do you have a question? You're muted.
Rudy, can you unmute John?
There we go, Joan, you're back.
I just wanted to say, time is of the essence because the uncertainties in county revenue are going to make things pretty tricky. And we don't know what to expect. So let's get the reclasses done as soon as we can, Skip.
That's definitely my thinking, and actually some of this was precipitated with a phone call I had with Will here, because he was aware that the state was just about to put in a hiring freeze too. There is the question about if we fill these positions, what happens with our budget next year? We need to get the positions filled. You're exactly right, John, and we will do that. If we hear back from the county that they want us to hold off on any of those, I would come back to the board because we are independent of the county, but we really want to work well with them. But yes, time is definitely of the essence. And if we are facing, well, we're going to know 2 weeks from tomorrow when Mr. Pittman releases his budget proposal, just how bad it may look. I have heard in meetings with all the other county department directors directly from Mr. Pittman, at least a week ago, last Friday, he was cautiously optimistic that we won't have to have furloughs for the county, and that would mean for us as well. And so the level of cuts we'll scour our budget if we have to make cuts, but that's where things stood as of a week ago.
Will, I would note that we're over time, so I'll move adoption.
Okay. All those in favor?
Can we see a raise of hands? Those of you who are in favor, hold them up so we can count 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, looks like unanimous again.
Okay. All those opposed are none.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn, I guess.
Okay.
Do they all stay on, or how are we doing this?
Yeah,
Is there another one?
Rudy, help us with this. Does everybody need to sign out of this and sign back in? Or
Yes, it's a separate meeting, so everyone needs to sign out of this one and sign into the next meeting.
Okay. All right. Bye.
See you all in a minute.
Well, will the requirements be different, the ID and the?
No, it should be exactly the same where you got into this meeting. It'll just be a separate meeting number.
So it'll be a different number, but so in other words, they received a separate invitation, and they should go to that invitation.
So you're going to send that to us
Yes.
so we can get back in?
You should have it.
You should have it already.
Oh, okay.
Donna sent out an email that had the link for both meetings.
Okay, I have that then.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.